that you need to, there's just not enough money to send out to actually make that work. So with that, that means you need to kind of be more prepared, and you need to know what people are looking for to get them. And so I know there's always this kind of need and to kind of say, how can I go find that money? Especially grants are great because you don't have to pay them back. But think about how much time you might spend on that versus whether it's better to spend time selling more or figuring out how to improve the business. If the grant is easy, or you can have your stuff together that you can make it easy for yourself and then go after, great. But you know, the kind of mental energy sometimes that's spent on things like grants can really slow you down and focusing on the things that are going to make the business work. So I just offer that as advice to start, and then we're going to talk about how to actually get the grants, you know, work for it if you want to go after them. A few other things to know on grants: they're almost always taxable. Like unless you're a nonprofit business, like you're organized as a 501c3, then you're going to have to pay taxes on grants that you get. It's going to be treated like any other sales. So you're going to get a 1099. You're going to have to report it. If you don't, that can catch up to you. So make sure you have those things together and you're planning for it. And if you're already doing well and are profitable, it's going to add more profit, which means more tax. So be prepared for that and think about it. Doesn't mean it's not worth getting the money, even if you're paying a little bit more taxes on it. But you don't want it to catch up with you if you get it and then spend all of it and don't set aside some of it for the taxes. Other things you really need to think about as you're thinking of grants. I'll try not to speak too much of this, you know, but look at really what the grant is allowed to be used for. You know, not a lot of grants can only be used for some very specific things. Do you have a need for those things, and are you ready to use them there? Do you get the funds right away, or do you have to get reimbursed for them? Like, do you have to go spend something and then you get paid back by whoever's making the grant? So if it's a large grant, do you have the money to go spend it, right? So you need to make sure how that's going to work. What type of reports are they going to have you do? A lot of times it's really simple for for many grants, but you need to know, do you need to, send them a report once a year for 2 years? Do you need to stay open for 1, 2, or 3 years? Lots of grants have restrictions and requirements that they want to make sure that the business continues and does kind of gets as far as it can, with things. And what happens if you don't meet those requirements? There aren't too many grants that we talk about, and certainly the United Way options don't kind of hit on these requirements, but you sometimes, especially if there's a government related grant, if you don't do the things that you said you were going to do or don't stay open long enough, they can actually request the funds back, and you would sign an agreement saying that you would get it. So really know what those are when you're going into them and what's required. Ultimately, it's really important to know why the organization wants to make those grants. Why is it doing it? Is it because they want to support businesses like yours, businesses in your community, kind of businesses in your industry? What is it that they're trying to do? Because that's just really important as your so you know if it fits in with who you are and what your business is and what you want to be connected to. Questions, comments, thoughts? Make sense so far with us? All right. Next up. There we go. So this chart is a lot. Now, like I said, it's going to be in your slides. But on the left-hand column, you see right along here, these are some of the common requirements that grant applications are going to ask for from businesses. First and foremost, does your entity exist? Are you do you have your business, or if you're an LLC, does the LLC exist? Is it active? Did you renew it? Did you pay your annual registration fee to keep the LLC active? We see frequently someone comes to CIC and is applying for a loan and the LLC expired, 2 months ago. They could go and renew it and they're back at it, but that's often a thing that you need to make sure has happened. So are you registered? Is it a legal entity? The columns on the right say, why would a grantor and a lender or even investor care about that? And so the reason we put that there is, just why are they even asking these questions? How many of you get asked for things? It's like, why are they asking for all of this? This is way too much, right? Happens all the time. we live, especially in a world, if you're talking about government-related funding. Also, a lot of nonprofits like CIC, like United Way, get funding from government that often ask us to prove things. And so we often have to ask for more than we would like to. But regardless, any funder is going to know that you have to be a legal entity, you know, and if it was an investor, if you're thinking about getting money from investors to actually be an owner with you in the business, they need to know that you're an entity that they can partially own. You know, if you're not an LLC or a corporation, they can't join you and be an owner. So that's a thing to keep in mind. Proof of business license. If you're in Charlottesville or Albemarle County, you absolutely have to have a business license. Other surrounding counties, it varies from community to community. But are you allowed to do business in your community? Is your business license up to date? If not, a lot of, you may not be eligible, and so you need to get that taken care of. Credit history. For grants, it's rarely ever asked about credit history. We start talking about other sources of capital or loans or others, that would be something that might come into play. But grants, I can't see I've seen one that actually looks at credit history. But for loans, it would be. Financial statements, and this is where part of the reason we are doing this workshop is we've seen, United Way has, as well as CIC, the other programs we've managed, that we want to help folks do better applications so they have a chance to kind of get the funding. I want to a couple of chairs around, and we can pull up more if we need them. So often the challenge that people have, or think something that they don't submit, something that fully what's needed is related to financial statements. Why would a grant ask for financial statements? Just like for loans or others, if these grants are competitive, if there's only a limited amount of money that any funder is going to give to a limited number of businesses, they want to know that they're going to be able to make impact and that they're helping the businesses go as far as they possibly can. One of the ways of knowing that is the business doing all the things it needs to. And so that's why it might be looking at financial statements. The other reason might be the grant might only be for businesses that are generating more or less than a certain amount of sales each year or that type of thing. So it's really important to have those records and be keeping them regularly. And that's often a challenge for all of us, to make sure we have what we need. And so we'll talk about what you can do on that front. A business plan, whether it's a full formal business plan or just a shorter version of a plan. Just about all funders. I'm sorry, heard a question. Let's be back. I'm sorry. So thank you. Business plan, just about all might want some version of it. It might be a very short one. It might be just you answering a few questions that come out of your plan, or it could be having it. And the reason they're asking for that, they want to know that you have shown that you can sell enough, to earn the profit and help the grantor meet its goal. Or if it's a loan, to pay back the loan, or if it's for the investor to make money with you. All of those are looking for that kind of proof of that. So that's why that work needs to be done. A description of the business, that's all the time, is just on an application. Describe your business. Can you describe your business succinctly in a paragraph or 2 paragraphs or 2 sentences that says what your business sells to whom and why they buy from you? Like, why are you a better solution to the problem that you're solving? Being able to say that succinctly and well on the plan makes a huge difference, even if it's a very short application, because it really comes through that you know what you're doing. And then description of how you'll use the funds. Why? What are you going to use the grant funds for if you get them? What are you going to use the loan funds for if you get them? How is it going to help you get from this point in your business to the next point in your business? If you could say that in a sentence or 2, or be able to clearly list what those things are, you're going to be a stronger application. Questions on this?
I have a question in chat. Which financial statements are asked for?
In most cases, it would be a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. Almost always a profit and loss statement. The balance sheet is also helpful to know, is your business in a crazy amount of debt? Is your business, what assets does it already have? Those things are all important for it. Other questions? Everyone's gotten quiet. So I mentioned grants versus loans versus investors. What do they all want? Why are they giving out money, lending out money, investing money? All of them, as you can see on here, want you to be successful. I know sometimes it doesn't always feel that way, but they all want you to be successful. And so they're looking for, hey, what do they need to be successful? You know, how are they doing? What other ways can we help them? Grants exist to make an impact in the communities they serve. You know, United Way is helping more small businesses get the funds that they need by grants. You know, the local government invests in different grants in different industries to help them do things. But during COVID, there were lots of grants to help people respond to COVID. All of them exist to make impact. And so whoever's giving the money needs to be able to show that they're making that impact, whether it's to whoever's they're getting the money from or just to their own kind of stakeholders and so forth. So they need to be able to show that. So that's why they need to know this information from you. For loans, want you to be successful, and then any lender wants to know that they're going to be repaid, whether that's a bank, whether it's a CDFI like CIC, no matter what, they want to see how they're going to be repaid on that loan. Do you have enough money left over every month based on what you're doing to afford the loan payment? Groups like CIC also want to be able to show the impact that we're helping businesses grow. So we want the loan repaid, but we also want to know that like we're helping the businesses and can show that. Investors, if you're thinking of getting outside investors, depending on what type of investor they want, often want to make significant returns on their money. Angel investors is the example in the bullet point, you know, want to make 5 to 10 times. If they gave you 10,000, they want to make 50,000, you know, at 5 or 7 years. That's angel investors. There's other investors who invest on a much smaller scale, but they're looking for that, which is very different from just getting a loan payment with 5 or 10% interest. You know, that's very different. So knowing why people are willing to fund you is really important in knowing what they're going to be looking for.
Stephen, we do have a couple questions. I don't think this one was addressed. I was responding to a DM, but which financial statements are asked for, profit and loss, etc. The first question.
Yeah, that one we started it on. So we have the that is profit loss would be one and a balance sheet would be the other. Shared a second ago, and then pulling up on the screen the other question from Melissa. What if your county doesn't require a license? Are you still eligible? So depending on the grant program, if the program says that she says in Louisa that Louisa businesses are eligible, then you wouldn't need a business license to apply as a Louisa business. So if the program for Charlottesville, now Albemarle, and Fluvanna, then Louisa wouldn't be eligible with that. So it's just knowing the program, what do they consider eligible? But if the county doesn't require it, you wouldn't need it, of course. You would need to be registered as a business, so you need your, you know, whatever register you are to show that you're a legal entity, but not have the license. Thanks for that. Other questions at the moment? Examples of some business grants, you know, obviously United Way is helpful, you know, with this workshop and asked us to host it. They have 2 grant programs, the Envision Small Business Enterprise Grant, which was kind of earlier this spring, have been doing annually, and then the Minority Business Alliance Enterprise Grant. That's a partnership with the Minority Business Alliance at the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce. That's opening soon. You know, that's been happening for the last 2 or 3 years. Those grants have the requirements that we mentioned. We're looking for financial, like a example of your kind of with your business and so forth. The smaller grant is for smaller, kind of a little bit earlier stages business who are working to either stabilize their business or take some next steps. The larger grant is for businesses that are a little bit further along who are wanting to kind of grow and have a little more specific plan for how they're going to grow. And so the larger grants require and ask for a little bit more, you know, they're also going to be more competitive, right? So you need to have more preparation for them. All this, if you're on this, you know, if you signed up for this, United Way, you're probably already on United Way's list. or we'll make sure they do. So when that gets announced, you'll get the notification, and can work on those applications. You've probably seen lots of announcements from different companies, national companies and so forth, Coca-Cola, Comcast, Verizon, all these who've done kind of different grant programs over the last 3 to 5 years, where it's like $5,000 for a small business, 10,000. Most of those programs, they're opportunities, but they often open and close in a week or two. They ask for a number of the things that we already talked about. And they probably get 1,000 applications, for every, 10 or 20 winners of the grant, or even if they get 100 grants, they get 10,000 applications for. So they're really challenging to actually get. You could spend time, and if you had everything organized and ready to go, you could actually, but more often than not, there's many of the people who get said no to are awesome businesses that would be great for it. They just were not, just kind of luck of the draw. I don't know, makes their own decisions and how they get to it, but they're just harder. So you can be on the lookout for them. We try to promote them when we hear about them. And if you have your kind of information on your business together all the time, your current financial statement, whatever it is they're asking for, you can apply for it pretty quickly. And, with a little, luck over time, you'll get it. But there's no way for us to say, this is how you get these grants. They're just so big and they're just all over the place. So I just say that as caution. If you really wanted to be able to go after them, the advice we're talking about today is making sure you have your kind of records in order, know what generally is asked for and keep it up to date so that when you hear about it, you can apply right away. And it doesn't take too much of your time. You get it in and you see what happens. So they are real. Money does go to real businesses. And every once in a while we get lucky and we hear about some of them from Charlottesville. But it's harder to know where and how they actually happen. Government grants. There are a lot of different government grants that kind of happen and relate to this. They're often very tied to specific industries. They're looking to kind of grow an industry or an industry that creates lots of jobs or economic opportunities. And so they pop up from time to time. I don't know a lot of them that really are annual and happen every year. So you kind of have to be ready and prepared for when someone's doing it. An example of one recently, Albemarle County had an agribusiness grant for businesses that basically are, kind of agriculturally focused, but has built a business around it. And so that was because they're incentivizing those businesses and, they kind of went through and provided that opportunity. Sometimes food businesses have it, technology oriented businesses, all those, kind of can come into, play. So a lot of times there's a few grants related to, if like you're hiring a new employee, that is in a specific sector or industry that come into. So those are a few examples. There are lots of them out there. And so one of the tricks is trying to figure out where they are and how to find them. So how do you find out about grants? If you're not already, or actually if you signed up for this, we'll be added to the Small Business Development Center list. And that newsletter goes out once or twice a month. Things that we know about, we put in there, right? So they're included in it. CIC and SBDC share things on social media, as does Departments of Economic Development and other partners kind of throughout. But keeping an eye and being on their email list or their pages and glancing at it when they come through to see if opportunities do pop up. Grants.gov is a federal website that is for like bigger federal grants. If you're in a very specific industry that might be opportunities, you can search there and look for things. It's a little bit harder, but there are ways and there are opportunities that it is a place to search. Obviously, the better you are with Google, you can sometimes find things, searching for grants for your industry or, grants for, kind of in specific communities or that type of thing can help you get there. There's a few other tools, Candid, Grant, Gopher, Grant Watch, that there are not a lot of business grants posted on them, but occasionally there are. you know, and so trying to, just so you know where you could look if you were really trying to spend time doing it. And then the US Chamber of Commerce also lists programs. This is where you might find some of the larger corporate national grants programs that pop up because they're usually US Chamber members, and we'll post them there. Does anyone here have found grants, or how did, I should have asked this at the beginning, how many folks in here have applied for a grant for their business before? Ever? Yeah, and can't see a couple, there's someone on the call. How many folks, where do you find, like when you apply for, how do you find them? Or are there other places not on the list that you found grants?
On TV, the 30-day fund that they were doing after COVID.
Yep, 30-day funds, and sometimes TV. COVID had a lot more grants than it used to be, and they are fading away. Yeah, so, others that folks have found or come across?
The chat says grants.gov, local Main Street organization recommending one. Someone said Google email.
Google or email, great, all good things.
Have you heard of Hello Skip?
Hello Skip. Vaguely familiar, but tell me about it. What's Hello Skip?
It's a great program. They've got a lot of grants and they keep up with a lot of things going on. I've heard of a ton of grants through them. There's an app. A lot of times when you put your answers in, it'll save it to where those answers can be used throughout. It uses AI as well, so it will generate an answer for you that's really good, and check your answer to see if it's strong, medium, or very strong. And I don't know how great it is. I haven't received anything from it, but it's just another source.
But you've tried it?
I've tried the heck out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, heck yeah, yeah. So Hello Skip, I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check that out.
You have to pay for the A1 part.
For the AI part, yeah.
Yeah, you
Oh,
have
you have to pay. Yeah, the subscription.
Yeah,
You have to
you
pay.
can have the subscription is free. But if you want to use the A1 part, you
Yeah.
have to pay.
The chat says hello Alice, and I fund.
Hello, Alice. Yeah.
Hello, Alan.
So yeah, so you don't know places, but it's a good point. If they ask you to pay for it, you have to find out quickly how relevant is it to me? Is it gonna actually get me closer to things and get some success for it? Because if you can pay for it, so can everyone else, right? So, like I mentioned at the very start, these programs are competitive. Meaning just there's a lot of applications for a small number of grants. And when they get so many at scale, it's really hard to say, you know, that like your business is better than your business from a few things on paper, right? Especially if they're not even in the community you're in. So keep that in mind for those larger ones, especially in deciding how to spend your time and money to go after them. So with that, want to talk about great uses of grants. We often apply for grants, and I've seen lots of applications myself with different things that says, you know, oh, I'm gonna like, you know, basically just use to pay myself for the month or two so I can kind of grow to the next step. That's a harder thing for a lot of the kind of programs to get there. Not that they can't be used for that, but they're looking for how do you get to that next step? Like, what do you need that you don't have now? Not just money. You know, we all want more money. We all use more money. But what is that thing we can actually do? And so a few examples, and this is by no means exhaustive, and I'll see what ideas you have. Inventory. If you have a new product and you need to kind of order an initial batch of it, or you have a big season coming up and you need to increase the amount of inventory that you have. That would be one kind of a place that you could say, let me get $5,000 more of inventory. And I know I'm gonna be able to sell that for $20,000. And then I'll have a larger set of inventory ongoing and make more money. Well, equipment. Are you using, if you have a baked products business and you're baking in an oven that only allows you to do 24 at a time, could you get an oven that allows you to do 100 at a time? Right, because then you're using less of your time or less of an employee's time, it's more efficient and you can spend more time selling it. Right, so being able to make that investment to do that is a big step. Building out space, you're moving into a new space and you like need it to be outfitted so that you can sell the way you want to. That's a one-time expense. Purchase a vehicle, wrap, or somewhere, could put your marketing on a material. All of those again. Each of those are one-time uses, meaning a grant is a great source of funds or something you only have to spend once. If you have to spend it every month, like an employee salary or so forth, it's a little bit harder because then the question is, where's that coming from? And unless you're showing that you're growing enough to pay for that salary ongoing, then it's not as immediate. But when someone looks at a grant application and they can see, yes, that equipment or having this new vehicle or building out this space means that you're open. Any of those things just resonate a lot more and can help kind of separate you out as far as what you're going to be doing. That has to be a part of the plan of what you're doing and how you get from one step to the next. A couple of other ideas that come up, and we had one person do it somewhat recently. They got a grant, and they use part of that grant has the investment, the personal investment, or think of it as like down payment for a bigger loan. So say you got a $5,000 grant and you're going after a $50,000 loan. Bringing 5,000 of your own money into the project for a lender is going to make you more attractive, right? Because you're bringing your own money in and you're taking some of the risk with the lender. So being able to say you're going to do that and it's a part of a plan could be a great way to do that and could be attractive to a lot of funders. That's not just CIC. That would be the same if it was a bank loan or just any other lender that you would look at. It's not often allowed, but building savings in your business is also a good use of the grant. It's when it is that you can actually have a little bit of that reserve so that when you hit an extra tough point or something breaks on equipment or machinery or something like that, you can actually fix it and you have that reserve. So be able to look out for that and be able to say, look, having this 2,000 in reserve that I plan to keep, in there unless there's an emergency, will make my business stronger because then I can go do these other things. You need to know if the funders want to allow it, but I think it strengthens your business. Anyone have other things that they found have been really strong ways to use a grant?
Maybe use it for marketing too.
Marketing? The thing with, yes, marketing can be great, but I would say on marketing, the question I often have for someone is like, how do you know the marketing is going to work? Have you tested it before or because it's one thing to say marketing in general, but what specifically? I want to ask, who are you going to market to?
So sometimes even if you want to list your business, Google, they want money to list your business. So they might call you and say, we want $400 or $500 to list your business on so that when people call. So let me use this for example. I'm a cleaning business. And so I have a lot of competitors in the cleaning business. So with Google, say you have a new family just came into town and they are looking for cleaners for Charlottesville. So they just type in cleaners in my area of Charlottesville. So there's a list. So with Google, if you pay them, and a lot of people don't know this, but if you pay them, they put you up there higher. And so you get the opportunity and the chance to get a new client before someone else gets it. But it's not free. You have to pay.
So like Google Ads and so forth. Yeah. So great example. And so knowing that it works and showing that it's worked for you, that like, hey, I did this, for 2 or 3 months, a few months ago, and I generated this much more, like knowing that. So marketing generally, people are going to ask questions about, but being able to say very specifically the takes of marketing and why you think it's going to lead to more leads or more actual customers, that could be a good use, especially if you can say, and then once I do it, then I'll have a few more resources to keep doing it, right? And to keep building from there.
And not only that, if you use it to create a website, the website helps you to be on top of that list. But Google calls everybody and says, okay, you be at the top of the list. And it's basically just an alphabetical order, but if you go beyond that and create a website, using the funds, and that way, then the funds can be used to update your website consistently as well.
And so just knowing that the website does generate business stuff for you, you know, like, do people find your business through a website or do they find it in a different way? You know, so being able to show that it does is important, you know. On a very small grant, I'll say marketing or something else, one thing that could be useful, and it just really depends on the grant. I won't, you should ask this of whatever program is funding it, but like, I would love to use this small grant to test marketing in a new area where I haven't done before. Before I do a lot of it, I figured out a way I can test it in a small way, see if it works, and then if it does, I can put more of my own money behind it, you know, to do it better. And so, but then to be able to show that you actually have a plan, you know, for how that test is going to work and how you know if it does. Google works well because you can track whether people find you that way. But any other type of marketing, how are you going to know? Are you going to track how they find you and that type of stuff? So, all good ideas.
I have a question, is buying a business, buying an existing business, would that be something that would be strong?
In a grant application, it'd probably be harder, you know, if you're talking about other sources of funding, you know, there, but I haven't heard of a case of that. And, you know, I would say with any of them, when you know who's doing the grant, reach out to them, like, and say, hey, I'm thinking of this, you know, or I have this opportunity. Would I be able to use the grant to help me with this? You know, so. Yeah, the comment on there says essentially how will you multiply the seed? Seed is the grant, you know, what are the things that you can actually multiply as a result? Other questions, comments? So a few tips for winning grant applications. No matter what happens, be specific in how the grant will help you. I'm trying to get to this point. I need money to get there. So it means I need this piece of equipment. I need to hire this person, like, which will give me the time to go sell more or whatever it might be, but be very specific. You know, again, just can't, you know, say that enough. The specificity makes a big difference. Any questions, address directly and fully. You know, get some feedback. Come, you know, come to one of our folks here at CIC, come to SPDC, like say, do the first draft and then let someone give you some feedback on how you can improve upon it. You know, because lots of times what I see with people in grant applications is they put 5 words or 1 sentence on a thing that like is generally an answer, but it doesn't tell you much. You know, so being able to really say more is really helpful. Do your research, know why they're doing it, what they care about. If you know what they care about and you can speak to what they care about, then you can actually, you know, you have a better chance of, you know, being funded. A lot of time, some applications have like word limits or that type of thing, but in general, being a little lengthier is actually going to provide a little bit more detail, you know, than that'll actually help folks. A lot of times they give you a limit anyway. So if you're limited to 500 words, don't only use 20 words. You know, give yourself a little bit of time so that they're expecting to read at least part of that. You know, that the 500 words, so use it. You know, you don't have to say more than what's needed, but make sure you kind of fully answer. If it's an online form, Google form or whatever else, copy the questions into a Word document or a Google document, write the answers, edit yourself, save them, and then paste them back into the form. Can't tell you how many folks have submitted something and then don't have any copy of it. Half the time when you answer it once, there's going to be another application like it that you've already done the work to answer it once, right? So like save those so that you could use it again. CIC, we apply for grants all the time, you know, as a nonprofit. We use a lot of the same language over and over, you know, and so being able to do that is really helpful. Put links, find ways to put links to your website and social media, you know, in the application. Show that the business is there, that it's real, that it's doing significant work, that it has a good presence. put those and share it, like, if you're on Twitter, but you never post there, yeah, don't put Twitter. But if you're on Facebook primarily or Instagram and that's where you post everything, make sure people can see it so that they can see that, what's happening with your business. And finally, don't assume those reading know your industry or jargon. Don't assume that they know exactly, what your, all the things and how your industry works. So like spell it out a little bit more if you're using acronyms and that type of thing. Questions, thoughts? Any questions from the Zoom? All right. So we got the title of the workshop was Am I Ready? And I'd say for all of you on the call, just to think about on these boxes here, how many of these can you check? Like registered license, I would hope so. Have you checked to see if your LLC is expired? Maybe it's, that time of year, you kind of forgot about that it happened in April, now it's June, time to do it. Take care of that. Do you know what you need more money for and how it will help you grow? Like if you were said, given that question right now for $1,000 or a $5,000 grant, would you be able to answer it, like directly? We can always come brainstorm about it, but can you answer it? If you don't, and need help thinking through it, we'll talk about where you can get help, but sit down and work on it. Think what is your plan for the next 6 months or a year so that you can have that answer. And then whenever you get asked it, you're ready for it. Do you have a plan? Your business plan up to date on what you're trying to accomplish this year or in the next 2 years or 5 years? Maybe you wrote the plan when you started and you haven't looked at it since, but you're doing okay. If you're starting to go after money, that means you're trying to grow. You're trying to do something. Do you have a plan for it and what's it going to take? And then, are you keeping good records? We see this quite frequently that to actually know how the business is doing, you need some folks' records. And we all kind of get busy and get away from it, and so do you have a current profit and loss statement or balance sheet? Not just your tax return, but do you have the actual those records? Do you have it for last month? Right now we're June 12th, so almost halfway through June. Do you know how you did between January and May? Or if not May, at least April. Is it up to date as of the end of April? Because when you're doing the applications, they're going to be asking for it. And did you file your taxes? Any of the government grants, part of the reason government grants support businesses is because businesses, provide a lot of value in the community. And part of that value is they pay taxes that support all the services, including providing these grants. And so if you're not current on your registration, licenses, taxes, if you have to pay sales tax or other types of things, and you don't do it, they want to know that, especially for government related grants. And then a lot of other grants, it's just it's a proxy for it. Are you taking care of the things you need to? Because if they give a grant and then it's just used to pay taxes for last year, it doesn't actually help you grow this year. And so really encourage you, even if you've been behind or struggled with it at any point in the past, to go work on it, and to build a plan to catch up. Because if you're working on that plan, then you can say, I'm working on the plan, and this is what I need to grow next. But sometimes they're going to be asking, for that. And again, if any of these grants are ultimately coming from government funding, where's that government funding coming from? Taxes. That's some folks are paying. And so they can do more when more businesses are successful. And then, all right, Keith, city government. So you need help. Say all these. How many of you actually, before I say that? Yeah, 100%. All of these are checked, ready to go. Good, great. Some probably on the call raising their hand behind their camera. Not everyone did, right? And that's okay. If you need help, where do you go if you need help? I would say don't wait until the next grant application opens to start working on it. If you're behind and need to do the taxes, if you are need to work on your financials, any of those things, There are a bunch of other places that, around town, that also can help. CIC, we have, a lot of you have been through our workshop. We have mentoring that can work on kind of thinking about the planning. I'm gonna talk more about our financial management program in just a second. SBDC, Mesa's here from it. We have her business cards as well as mine over on the table if you're in the room. And obviously we'll send that out with the slides to everyone. One-on-one business advising. You need to sit with an advisor to make a plan for where you want to go from here. Yeah, Mesa will get you connected. If you're thinking about where can you get some capital or where there's other opportunities, SBDC can be a great place to know about all of them and connect. So financial management, CIC started this 3-4 years ago. The goal of the financial management program is to help you improve that record keeping. So if you're already selling, this isn't for someone who's not open yet, but if you're already selling regularly, then the program is designed to help you really build those habits around record keeping so that you can better use an accountant or bookkeeper. I would imagine, I won't ask this question, so I won't put anyone on the spot. We've all hired an accountant, and the only time we talk to them is, around April 1st, because April 15th is coming up. It's a bit late. It doesn't help you with records throughout the year. It might mean that you get your taxes filed, but it doesn't mean you actually know what's happened on your business throughout the year. So this program is one-on-one. It's not a group, one-on-one with a coach who meets with you a couple of times a month to work on your financials. So helping you kind of gather that information, kind of create your own system for capturing it, know what's happening, make plans around it, and build the habit to do it every month. And so it's on your time, but at the end of it, you have the financials and you know what's happening and you know whether things are working the way you need to, and you're ready for a grant application or a loan application or kind of other types of opportunities. So that's available to you all. If you're interested in it, reach out to us and we'll get you connected. You can meet and decide if it really is a good fit. I would say if you know that you're behind and you need to do better on your records, that working with someone and being able to say in the grant application that you're working on it, and this is a plan for how you're working on it, could also help your application. And so would really encourage you to do it. Right now, that program is free. There's usually been an enrollment fee and so forth in the past, but right now it's, free. So I'd suggest, thinking about it and taking advantage of it if you are looking to improve those processes. I would say the program, the financial management, is only about your finances. If you want to talk about sales or how to get more sales or marketing, mentoring, business advising, other resources, we can help you get connected to it. But if you want to work and make sure you have your finances down, that's where we can help. Couple of things in the chat I see.
So
Yep.
link to sign up for the management class and more information.
So we'll get that in the chat in a second. It's all from our website. So questions on that? Questions on any of these? I'm rolling through it because y'all are a quiet group. There's a few of you who've done the financial management program or worked with mentors, the other places. So, there's a lot of your, colleagues in the workshop here, online and off, who have used these programs. So if you need a reference for it, I'm sure they're happy to provide it. Thanks for the link. And so kind of transitioning here, we talked about, are you ready for money? And we talked a lot about grants. But if you're ready for grants, and you need financing to grow your business, you're also might be ready for a loan. Don't do debt unless you need or want to do that. I know some people just prefer not to have any debt. I think we'd all like that if we could. But growing your business, if your business is working and you just need equipment, you need inventory, you need other things, that can be a way to get there. Especially if it's affordable and low interest. I would say, think about, make sure you know the interest rates you're paying, the terms, how often people are getting paid. I'd be cautious about the debt and the opportunities that might come from the Square loans or QuickBooks loans or other things that you might get if you're using those services. Not that they can't get you the money soon, but you often pay a lot, for it, or you have to pay it back very quickly, which means it takes a lot of that cash you need to run your business. So a lot of you have heard us about, talk about CIC loans, but just in general, what do lenders look for? A little bit more than grants, but a lot of the same things. They want to know what your monthly, your personal financial situation, I can't talk. Your monthly personal financial situation a little bit more. So what is your personal budget, not just your business? That's because your business pays your personal bills. And so they want to make sure that you have those under control. They're going to look at credit history, and it's okay to not have perfect credit, but they're looking that you do work to pay your bills on time. If you've had challenges in the past, and CIC and other lenders like CIC will work with you and more willing to do more than others, but it's still, we want to see that you're kind of working to improve your situation. What is your business situation? So on a loan, can you prove that people want to buy what you're selling? Like prove it, And so if you're an existing business, the best way to prove it is that people continue to buy from you. You're getting the sales. If you're brand new, proving is a little bit harder without being able to sell. So, it might be a pop-up, that might be lots of interviews, that might be other things, but you need to be able to prove it. That comes through in your business plan and the work that you do. Do you have a handle on your financials, the cash in and out? And that's where the financial management, other pieces come into play. And then for banks, don't often lend to businesses that haven't been at least 2 or 3 years in business. But how long you've been in business can be important. Other things that come in, security or collateral, is there some way else that you could repay the loan if it doesn't work out? So if you need to buy a vehicle for your business, the vehicle is the collateral, but are there others? And then every once in a while, what's going on in the economy? In May of 2020, at the beginning of COVID, it was not a good time to take out a loan for a restaurant, right? Because restaurants were all closed. Those types of things, which are that particular is once in a hopefully lifetime, but even other environmental or kind of economic things can slow you down or could impact whether or not someone's willing to lend. So that's what lenders look for generally. For how do you get ready for your loan application? If you've done the work we talked about for grant applications, you're 95% ready for a loan application. You've done the work. One other difference between grants and loans, for banks, for groups like CIC, for other community lending programs, they're not competitive. You're only showing that you can make a strong enough case that you can repay the loan. It doesn't matter that your business is stronger or weaker than the next business. Especially for CIC, we don't compare any two borrowers. We just say, do you meet our criteria? And so if you want to grow and you need the money, you can chase grant applications for a while, or you can think about, could a loan work for you? And there are other folks, again, like I'm trying to not make this a sales pitch for CIC, but it is, there's opportunities to find capital from other places if you've done this work. So your business plan, showing people want to keep money in your business bank account. Like if you're not already doing this, and this will help on the financials and grant application, keep your business money separate from your personal money. When you need to pay yourself every month, transfer from one to the other, but all the business money comes in here, it still belongs to you. You're the only owner, it's all your money. But keep them separate so that you can show that the financials and everything else that you put together are accurate, because when they look at the bank statements, they only see business money going in and out. So having that separate, start now. If you've had challenges on your credit in the past, work to improve them. New Hill Development Corporation has some personal financial counseling opportunities, so that can help you repair credit, and so there's a lot of those types of opportunities around. In general, if you want to apply for a CIC loan, you apply by the 1st of the month with the potential for a decision, the next month. Couple things, mentioned our actual loan products. If you know about CIC in the past, I know some of you have had loans, like most of them fall in that startup or growth microloans column. This is our kind of regular loan application. It'll take about a month. But about a year ago, we launched our accelerator loans, which is loans up to $10,000. And the two big requirements is like, you don't have big credit challenges in the last 1 to 2 years, meaning that you're largely paying your debts on time. Even if you have some debt that you're trying to pay down, you're paying things on time. And you keep at least $600 in your business bank account as an average over 6 months, just $600. If you do that, you could be eligible for a $10,000 loan. So for that piece of equipment or that opportunity, and we can usually get decisions to you within, a week or two, if you have the things that we need. So when I said setting aside the money and keeping it in your account and building savings makes a huge difference in doing that regularly so that you're not always, spending down. So even if sometimes spending down isn't that you're actually spending more in your business, is that you're paying yourself everything that's left every month, right? Keep it in your business.
That's separate from.
Either of these could be eligible for business equity. So that, like the city of Charlottesville, if you're a city business, the business equity fund is available to city businesses that meet certain requirements that have a lower interest rate than CIC's normal rate. Any one of these loans could be a business equity fund market. So like you could do an accelerator loan that's from the business equity fund. And then you could have a like 1 to 3% interest rate if you qualify for the city's fund. That's for city of Charlottesville businesses. So city business license. If you're in Albemarle County or surrounding counties, the city's business equity fund doesn't apply, but the rest of these opportunities do. So with that, questions on these, questions on this?
Those interest rates are a whole lot more than what they used to be. When did they go up that high?
This is CIC's rates, like since we largely started. If you got a loan through the city equity fund, or if you had a COVID specific emergency loan, those were lower rates. But these are our rates have always been between 6.75 and 9.75%. Lower than right now, they're lower than most bank loans because interest rates are so high for banks. But we've always worked to keep them under 10%. Yeah, if you know of loans in other places that are less expensive or whatever, let us know so we can tell others. Because if someone's willing to lend at the lower rate, let's help you get that loan. Because we want you to get the thing that's going to work the best for you. General, these are the things we ask for, just like we mentioned before, the requirements for the grant application are basically the same here. There's an application, we ask for some bank statements and so forth as a part of the loan that you probably wouldn't do in a grant, tax returns, and then on the other side, business plan and financials. That's my contact information. I'll go back to some of the grant information just to pull up for you there, but what other questions do you have?
So what is the decision on the vision grant gonna be about?
I'd have to kind of defer that to United Way from the ones in the spring. Yeah, I don't know the answer on when they'll announce that. I don't know if anyone from United Way is on the call or not. But I would guess later in the summer, but I don't know the answer.
Like I said, they just started to come, they just started to review. I can't say that.
Right, 'cause I thought they were doing it last month.
Yeah, and they said it was.
So what happened?
So I don't know their process on that specific one from the spring. I know that the MBA enterprise grant will probably likely open next month because usually they announce that grant at the MBA dinner later in the year or towards the end of the year.
but you're not allowed to apply for both, kind of either or, right?
I think what. My guess is they'll probably announce in time, but we can get that question to them and so they can get it out. If they announce when the other one opens and you haven't heard, that I'm sure they'll give some guidance on whether you can at that point.
Chris, it's Andrea. I'm sorry, I heard MBA. Was there a question that I can answer?
Well, Andrea, I think the question was related to the United Way, United Waste Enterprise Grant from the spring. If you get one, that one, you're not eligible for the MBA grant. And they're just wondering when the one from the spring is going to be announced, so they know whether they can apply for the one.
Gotcha.
For the grant.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think United Way will give guidance when that gets announced, just so people know what to do.
Yes.
But thank you, Andrea.
Sure.
Other questions, thoughts? Did you come in here thinking you're gonna learn something that we didn't talk about? Or what's a question that you really wanted to know?
That was the question.
That was the question. Wanted to know when you're gonna announce on the United Way, so that one I can help you with, but other questions?
No, I'd like to say, this is Milton with Step Media. I'd like to say this is very helpful. You know, I've applied for grants before. I wasn't sure what I was going to learn today, but I learned a lot. And that's just like really being prepared and not taking the applications for granted. So very, very, very helpful. And I really like the thought of sort of doubling down on the money. Like if you do get grant money, going to a bank and then, you know, getting a loan to increase the monies that you have for operations. So very, very beneficial.
Thank you, Milton. I would suggest, like, the point on all of that, I think, is planning ahead, right? Know what you're trying to accomplish and then go find the money that can help you do it, whether it's grants, loans, wherever it else needs to come from, as opposed to just waiting for an application to open and then going after something. Have a plan that you're working towards, and then you can just tell people about the plan. That is your application. The more you can be doing that, the stronger you're going to be with all of your efforts. I think there was another question here, right before.
Oh, I was just asking if we can get a copy of that.
Yep, all of the slides from today will be sent to you as well as the, you know, our contact information and so forth, to help you. Yep.
So with the investor grant, it did give you a choice, I think, to kind of link with you all for, I guess, a loan. Can you kind of explain that?
So I'd say more if you have a plan or a project that's going to help you grow your business and you need more, the other Envision grant was $10,000 and say you need 25, you know, your loan application is going to be stronger if you bring 5 or 10,000 that you're investing into it to get the rest of it. And it's going to make you more likely to be approved with us, you know, as opposed to coming and just asking for 25 as a loan from CIC and not having any money of your own to put into it.
No, I meant like with the grant, I think it mentioned something about you can kind of use, like, say you got the grant, right? And then you wanted to use CIC as well. I think it.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The same,
That one.
that's what I'm referring to is
Okay.
before. So if you do get the grant and you know that you're working on a bigger project, don't go spending it right away. Let's talk about the loan that you can use part of it for.
Okay.
And then you can, you know,
Combine it together.
yeah, and make your loan application stronger and leverage your grant further.
Okay.
So. Someone else over here? Yes.
I do, that can talk about LLC and I'm a sole proprietor.
Yep.
So would that make a difference?
Being a sole proprietor, totally fine, just making sure that any registrations that you're required to do, like if you have a DBA, you know, or if you, the doing business as, and just as a sole proprietor, you know, you're in the city, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so having your business license and being a sole proprietor should be sufficient for what you need,
Okay.
you know? So yeah, sole proprietors are, in nearly all cases would be allowed for grants. Every once in a while, grants, you know, require something else, but if it doesn't, the point of the registration is if you are an LLC or others, make sure it's current and active. Ellen's, shortbread had a question.
No, I was just gonna say, I love this presentation so far. Everything you said, is spot on, like Step Media said. I wasn't, certain what I would learn, but, it's like everything, it's like drinking from a fountain. And in fact, I got a delivery today from somebody who works for Cisco, and he's starting a business. And almost everything you're saying, I was some way, shape, or form trying to tell him, come up with a vision and a plan. Money or no money, a vision and a plan is necessary for any entrepreneur. So I thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate the feedback. I'll just reiterate that, I've said it a few times. Having a plan and then going after money for the plan is better than just going after money and trying to check the boxes on what the money is asking for. So,
My question was about the Charlottesville Business Equity Fund. Is that something that you do, or is it just?
well, so the City Business Equity Fund is a partnership with, the City of Charlottesville and CIC. So CIC manages the fund. It's a loan fund, just like the other loans I mentioned. It's just, if you're a city business who meets the requirements for it, then you can get a lower interest rate, on the loan. So it's, instead of 6.75 to 9.75%, it can be 0 to 3%. So that's the biggest difference, but it's a great partnership that the city's invested in. What have I missed? So if you're interested in it, you can talk to us first, you can go talk to Keith first. Either way, you'll end up back with us, because we're the ones who review the loan. You still have to show that you meet the requirements for a loan, just a normal underwriting and review. But if you get approved, it's a lower interest rate.
Thank you.
Other questions, thoughts? I know there was confusion. A little bit of people said, is it 2 to 4 or 2 to 5? Well, it's going to be 2 to 3:15 as the workshop, which I think everyone will appreciate being a little bit shorter. But if you have other questions, I'm happy to hang out. I'll move to the last slide here, just so in case folks want to, my information is there, as well as, financing at CICville, which goes to Carolina, who's our director of lending. The contact at cvsbdc.org goes to Mesa, who's here in the room. If you are interested or want to get additional support or start planning for what you want to do. So, yeah, so all the slides will be sent to the email that you had registered. If you're in the room, and weren't registered, or if you're on the call and weren't registered, please, please put your name and information in the chat so we can capture and make sure we get it to you. But I'm assuming if you had the Zoom link, you got the email to get here. So, but otherwise, that's all I have for today. I think the chat, most people are just saying thank you, but just double check, see if there's questions. Don't
Stephen,
see any more. Thank you all for your time. Hope you have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Stephen,
Andrea, were you about to say something? Sorry.
yeah, quick question, and I'm asking on behalf of the Minority Business Alliance leadership team. So this was promoted as, in order to apply for the grant, you have to attend this workshop, correct?
That's the way I believe United Way did, yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's our understanding that any of the NBA members that were not on the call don't qualify for the United Way MBA grant. Is that right?
We are both recording this, as well as we've chatted with United Way about running it again, when it opens. So
Okay.
we will, we
Was
can
that a
circle
yes or
back
no?
on that requirements. Yeah. So
Okay, say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
we can circle back to make sure that folks who are interested in applying have the opportunity to meet the requirement if it is. So
Yeah, that would be helpful, because we didn't get any information until the week before, and so we kicked it out to our members, but some are there, and I'm glad they are. But we don't want to put others at a disadvantage because they could not attend this one. If we can help them in some way, that would be great.
no, we will. So,
Okay, thank
great.
you.
Thank you all for being here. Y'all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm not saying that. I'll take it out, Shannon. I'm a best
Banner for your business.